Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our last live safari of 2025. It's quite incredible to think that this is the last one that we will have, and it is starting off with none other than Ringo the rhino. What a great way to start our afternoon drive. We are already off-roading. And he wasn't playing the ball with us. He didn't get the afternoon script when we found him. He was in a nice open section with the beautiful Drakensberg Mountains behind him. And in typical fashion, just before we go live, he decided to wander into some of these acacia thickets. But we will do our best to keep up with him for a little bit. He is enjoying the nice short grass in this area, which could be little grazing lawns, but it's also just the start of the rainy season, so most grass is quite short, especially in the open sections of the reserve like this one. But this is perfect for white rhino. I'm just going to move forward and see if we can get a better shot of him here as he grazes, as I navigate all the fallen over logs and try and not give James a few extra piercings. I think James survived that. Okay. I'm going to try and find a gap here that we can get through and then have him walk towards us. We can squeeze through here. There we go. If he continues on the way that he is going, we are not going to be able to follow him for too much longer. But as you can see, the short grass in this area that he's grazing, nice and easy for him. Those big lips just cropping the grass nice and short to the ground, and that's what creates these sort of grazing lawns, which is one of the key ecological functions of white rhinos. Look at how he's pushing that dead tree out of the way so that he can access some longer grass that has grown under that fallen over tree. That longer grass that was there as a little bit of refuge from other grazers that haven't been able to muzzle their muzzles into that area. But he is, because he's nice and big and strong, and he's able to move what is a flimsy branch for a white rhino. We're going to get little shots of him as he moves through here in between all the vegetation. But this being a big male white rhino, he's probably just over 2 tons in weight.
Mobile, standing by.
And if we use a normal kind of ratio of how much food that they'll eat in a day, generally an animal will eat between sort of 2 to 5% of their body weight. He'll eat between 50 and 60 kilograms of food, grass alone, in a single day. It's amazing how many people I've had on safari that think it's impossible for an animal of this size to eat only grass, but they are strictly grazers. They might browse a little bit when conditions are really rough in the dry season. They are one of the key grazers and consumers of grass biomass in the savanna systems. Just going to take this moment while we're watching this beautiful boy to welcome all of our pack members onto the Sunday safari, and everybody else that is watching online that may not be a pack member of the Painted Dog TV pack. But to all of those of you that are pack members, Carol, Bob, Jennifer, Connie, Mary, welcome to this afternoon's drive, and what a way to get it off. I was joking with James, who is on camera behind me this afternoon, that it's a live drive. We've got to say that we want to find a leopard, and then we had lots of leopard tortoises running around. James is having a good laugh as I was dodging them walking along the road. And then I saw one off to the bush and he didn't believe me, and then I saw Ringo. So thank you to the tortoise, because he pointed out the rhino. And yes, there's a comment here from Carol that there is a little preview on our Instagram of pictures that are up for grabs later on this evening as we have a pack chat after the pack drive. Let's go to Instagram and have a look at those. We'll be having a little auction later, sitting around the fire as we discuss a few things and present the change that has happened in the Painted Dog TV family. I think you can call it that. We're going to be presenting to all of you our non-profit conservation company that we started a couple of months ago. So have your questions all lined up about that when we meet around the fire after the drive. I won't answer any questions now during the drive, but I will, and Brent will, when we are sitting around the fire to discuss that. Hi Jan, welcome. And you can see on his front left leg there, I don't know if we've had a close look at the rhino's legs since we have put collars on them earlier this year when we were doing some horn trimming on our population. All of our rhinos are now tracked on the reserve with these specialized tracking devices which we put on ankles of rhinos. These collars, if you will call them that, have some AI in them, and they give us alerts if they've been inactive, and they're very clever collars for tracking these rhinos and giving us updates on them. And they're also giving us some really good insights into the population since they've been tracked, their whereabouts, their territories, maybe a little bit of home ranges, how they change between seasons, dry season, wet season. You can see our Ringo here, that's a nice shot of him now. He's come into this little open patch in front of us. He's grazing along all the short grass there, and you can see how much grass he just crops off the top with those broad lips. Carol, it is nice to have you on this afternoon's drive, since it's been a few months since you've been able to watch a full drive. I hope you enjoy this one. I've got some more tricks up my sleeve for later on in the drive, maybe. Also ties into a recent pack chat that we've had. So, for those of you in the pack, let me know what you think we're going to go to, and if you can recall some of the topics that we've chatted about in our pack chats of late. And because most of those pack chats have been pretty relevant to this time of the year, a lot of them will be good guesses at where we're going to go. And a lot of them could actually play out, but I've got one in mind for now.
Getting buzz. Got him.
James, on his shoulder, I think there's a fly there, if you can see it. I don't know if we can get close enough to actually make it out. I can't quite make it out there. I just noticed that fly on the rhino, and they do have a bot fly that is a specialist parasite of both white and black rhinos. And when I saw that one just sitting there on his shoulder, I wondered if it was one of these rhino bot flies. Yeah, I saw that. So they're quite large. They're very large flies. Sort of around 2 centimeters long. But we couldn't zoom in enough with the camera for me to see if it is. But these botflies specialize in rhinos. They're Females will lay their eggs on the skin of a rhino, and then the larvae hatch and burrow into them. And then when the larvae have had a feed on the rhino, which is quite disturbing, they fall out and land in the soil where they pupate. But maybe this rhino will turn around and we'll see that fly on his shoulder again. You can imagine a fly that is completely specialized in parasitizing rhinos, what that fly's population has done with the decline in the rhino's population across Africa. As rhino numbers have decreased, so have these flies. He's coming nice and close, so maybe we'll be able to get a nice close-up look at that fly. If I'm not mistaken, it's the largest fly in Africa, which makes sense considering it's a parasitic fly of one of Africa's largest animals. Struggling to get my words out here. Ringo isn't shy to get up nice and personal.
Sections of two male lions are in the angry drainage line, about 20 meters north of that.
You can see in the folds of his neck all the ticks that are there this time of the year, with all of the green grass and the bush alive after all the rains. There's a lot of parasites around, and in the folds of the rhino, skin is always a host of ticks. And that's why often you'll see oxpeckers accompanying rhinos as they wander through the bush. But today, Ringo doesn't have his ever-present oxpecker friends. You look at his back and his rump there, he's full of dried mud this time of the year when he's got these hot days. Go and lie and wallow in any little seasonal pan that is filled up. Nice cooling mechanism. So a nice way to try and reduce his parasite load on his skin. Ticks will get trapped in that mud as it dries, and then suffocate, and then when he rubs up against rubbing posts, trees or rocks, he'll brush all of that mud off, and off with the mud comes the insects. I really want to see that botfly again, if it's still on his shoulder now that he's a little bit closer to us. I'm just going to reposition quickly so James doesn't have to shoot over his shoulder. Also see if we get a picture of that fly. Maybe I can give a slightly better explanation of its life stages, but I don't think it's there. And if I go any further, James is not going to be pleased with me. There's an acacia bush right in front of this camera. Alright everybody, it's been a lovely showing of Ringo the rhino. He's definitely my favourite rhino on the reserve. He always gives us a good show. And he is so relaxed with us, so he always comes up close to the car and gives us some really good viewing a lot of the time. But I think let's carry on because we do need to be back towards camp later on for our chat. This is where he was. Slightly easier route out of here. Less impact on James. Always got to try and keep your cameraman happy so he doesn't put you on the spot with anything awkward that he puts on camera. Hello Michael, welcome to this afternoon's drive. There's lots of tracks of leopard tortoises all over the road. It's a perfect day for them to move about. It's nice and cool. Yesterday was a scorcher. It was around 40 degrees. And today the cloud cover rolled in nice and early this morning. Sort of was on and off. From about 8 o'clock this morning we had the clouds come. And now it's completely overcast, which is really nice compared to yesterday. And maybe some rain is on the horizon with the tortoises moving about so much. But anybody listening to the radio and being sneaky would have heard about the 2 male lions. In a difficult place. So we'll see if we end up there because they are quite far in Leadwood. That has been the only other sighting seen. The stations, there is a white rhino bull west of Seskant, north of Lemondoring. He's mobile southwest into the acacia thickets. I'm not staying. Okay, we're going to go past Seskant Crib, see if anybody's having an afternoon drink. Also, it would be really nice if there's some impala here. There's often impala in this area, and we can see some of their lambs. And there's another leopard crossing the road. Is it a leopard tortoise? Must be, yeah. They really are on the move this afternoon. Michael, the reserve is very different to when you were here a few months ago in the middle of the dry season. Right. Let's leave this little leopard tortoise as he scurries away. We've had really good rains at the end of November, but we had really good rains from the end of September. They kind of came a little bit earlier, and then through October and November we had decent rainfall, which has been great for the bush. And long may it last into December and January and February. Hopefully we have a really good rainy season this year. There's some impalas. Are there any babies here? Let's see if we can find any baby. There's a few girls. But I think they mostly look like they're still pregnant. The rest of the herd's a little further down. You can see all the clouds and the mountains as well when we go a little. Yo, that female is very pregnant. Look at the way she's walking. She's also looking very skinny for this time of the year. Her hip bones are quite exposed there.
Stations, I'm leaving these two male lions. Still static in the English drainage line. One vehicle on lock.
I wouldn't be surprised if this female is going to give birth this afternoon, the way she's walking and the way she was lying down there.
The four females on this giraffe kill. They're going to come out of the thicket. Last station, what's your lock with those lionesses? It's on Rietspruit West.
This is some vervet monkeys, lots of impalas. I can't see any babies in this herd. There's also some giraffe. I'm in a position that James can get the giraffe through the gaps.
Didn't quite copy that location. Can you try again for me, please?
There we go. I'll begin to respond to that siren. I'm about 10 minutes off.
Also responding 25 minutes out.
Giraffe's not doing too much. Watching the monkeys that are walking in front of them. I can hear an acacia-pied barbet calling. Is that a giraffe sneezing? I heard what almost sounded like an impala snort, but I can't see an impalas by this giraffe. Alright, while these giraffe can't... Oh, there's a monkey. Mary, the troop of vervet monkeys around Hace do have a lot of babies. And all of the older babies are now full of chaos. They're good fun to watch when they're in the bush, but when they're around your house and they're learning tricks to get into it, they're not that much fun. Alright, let's carry on. We'll, I'm sure, see another giraffe. Maybe one slightly closer to the road. There were some impalas behind those giraffes, and maybe I did hear an impala snort, but it was short-lived. The other night, James and I were out in the bush a little bit after sunset, and in this area we heard impala's alarm calling, but we did not find anything. That's a rock. I thought something was lying in the long grass there, but when everything's green like this and you see one brown rock sticking out of the grass, my mind automatically goes to a cat lying in the grass, just the top of their head sticking out. Also, lots of little termite mounds are getting built now this time of the year, so their little domes are popping out of all the green grass. And just the perfect height for a sitting lion or leopard. You've got to adjust to the bush as it changes. The other night, I think it was after one of our pack chats, I was driving home after sunset, and there was a mass eruption of termite alates. It was absolutely incredible with the lights, with all these... Oh, there's a vulture. Look at the vulture flying. Looks like a white-backed vulture. You can't look at it. Maybe. I don't know if James can swing it across. Not really. It's also way too quick for us to put onto camera. The white-backed vulture is flying quite low here. It's not really a day that they'll be high in the sky with all the cloud cover. But there must have been hundreds of thousands of termites alates crossing the road and fluttering into the headlights of the car. It was quite an incredible eruption. I remember one year when I was guiding at Mala Mala, I was one of these mass termite elate eruptions, sort of this time of day. You could just start to see them streaming out of the termite mounds, out of the ground. Everywhere you looked, there were termites coming up. There were steppe eagles sitting on termite mounds, eating them. The birds were having an absolute party. And the termites got so dense flying off the road that I had to go home because my guests were getting absolutely covered in termites. There's another white-backed vulture flying somewhere, and there's baby impalas. Oh, not so keen on sticking around. We will see if we can get another look as we get closer. They're always like this, baby impalas, they move off. It's really good instinct for them to run away, get away from any potential danger. We might get a look at them as they walk down the section. I just need to find a gap for James. There we go. There's two little babies behind this young ram. How many of them? 3 of them. 4. 5. They are so cute. So this is one of the topics that we did talk about in our pack chats. There's little impala lambs and the synchronization of their birthing. All right, as they get into the deeper thickets, I think we're going to continue heading in the direction of where those vultures are flying. If you haven't already picked it up on the radio, have a guess at where we're going and what we're going to go and see. Mary, I can only imagine your comments on the vervet monkeys around Hace, being that the babies are on mom's chest, and when mom comes to have a drink from the bird bath, they're dunking their babies into the water, well, into critter cam. That's actually quite amusing to think about. Oh, this African weeping wattle is flowering. It's actually quite pretty. Up on the side of the road. The road is covered in their little yellow flowers. It's the time of the year when everything is plentiful and the bush is alive and colorful and full of flowers. It's green. There's lots of babies around. All the birds have their breeding plumage. It's a beautiful time of the year. And this summer has been rather forgiving. It has not been hot consecutive days. I mean, yesterday was hot, but normally in summer it's sort of a few days or weeks where it's a little bit unbearable. But it seems like this summer it's been 1 or 2 days that have been hot, and then we get cloud cover and rain over about a week. And looking at the forecast, this cloud cover is going to stay for a good week, with a little bit of rain coming in the middle of this week coming. It's been a really pleasant summer so far. Lots of rain, lots of life, not so hard in the temperatures. We must be getting close to where we're going. How's it? You may have heard him tell me and ruin the surprise. Ah, James is on it. There are the vultures in the tree that we saw flying, ever present at big carcasses. There's a lot of white-backed vultures sitting here in these knobthorn trees. And that is because the Rietspruit pride have killed another giraffe. There's also a little hooded vulture there. Any of you that need some of these for your year list, although I don't think so. There's a little hooded vulture. Whitebacks are keeping well out of the way of the lions. It's actually quite impressive that there's so many of them. There's probably about, looking around, 30 vultures in this area. With a cloudy day, it's quite impressive that they found it. But you'll just be able to see the carcass there through these couple of vehicles. And it's another adult giraffe that they've killed.
Station on standby for the pride on the rock hill. Hang on there on first crossing, so I'm going to try and get out.
Michael, just in terms of your question with regards to Wahlberg's nests, I haven't seen any that I know about. Just going to try and make space here. There's a few vehicles. Trying to get out, and then we can get ourselves a nice position. I haven't seen any, but I know there's often a pair on the deep slit on the southern fence line. Around, I think there's a jackalberry there, or in one of the figs on the other side of the fence. There's quite often a pair there, but I haven't had any noticeable sightings of a pair that I have identified that they're sitting at a nest site. We'll just wait for these vehicles to maneuver and then we can position ourselves. I did see the ear of a lion on the other side of the giraffe, but it is another giraffe kill. So I think that's number 6 for the year that we've recorded. So there have been a couple of babies killed by the lions, but to my understanding this is the 4th adult that they've killed this year. So it's pretty impressive gain. It's quite common for the Rietspruit pride to kill giraffe, and as we know from a pack chat recently, it's quite common for them to kill giraffe across Africa. How's it, Glenn? Good, how you doing? We'll let the other vehicle go ahead of us because they were here before us, and then we'll try and find ourselves a position. Are you sure? Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, there's now a line on the road. Okay, we'll squeeze in here. James, just let me know when you can. So I want to make space for the other vehicles to come in. That's not going to work, is it? Let me go forward a bit. You in front of it. Is that a good spot? Okay. I'm going to try and just get out of the way here. So it looks like there's 4 of the lionesses here. We know that the 2 males are on Leadwood. I wonder where the 5th lioness is. So they killed this giraffe sort of late morning today. They were trying their luck with zebra on Leadwood, and then somebody around 2 o'clock this afternoon found them here on the giraffe. So clearly the zebra were a bit too quick for these girls, and they had to shift their attention to something potentially a little bit slower. It's amazing how many flies there are at this carcass already, considering it was killed maybe 4 hours ago. It just goes to show the effect of summer and insects abundance. There's also some dung beetles that are coming. There might be some dung beetles in the stomach content there. Judging by these lions, they've had a really good feed already. I think this is Bucket on the left. She's definitely the one with the biggest tummy. And she looks very uncomfortable, but she's going in for some more. Jennifer, that's quite a good question, if any cats will move away from carcasses that are sort of inundated with insects. And not really. Food is food. Sometimes if they're really desperate, they'll even eat all the maggots at times. I've seen a leopard with an impala kill in a tree where it looked like a swarm of bees flying around the carcass. There were so many flies. It was incredible to see. You couldn't actually see the impala, there were so many flies. All you saw was the movement of flies, almost like that when she's pulled that carcass and all those flies took off. And you see lions and hyenas on elephant carcasses that are a week old, and there's just, you can see all the maggots, and it's quite intense. Sorry to paint that picture, but they don't turn down a meal really. So now what I want you to notice, if you were a pack member, is those scars on that sort of thigh area of this giraffe where these lions have pulled it down. If you were part of that chat where we were talking about giraffes getting predated on by lions across Africa, which was spurred on by the fact that these lions killed 2 giraffe in the span of 4 days on the Rietspruit Game Reserve, one at Mamba Dam and one at Sekwe Dam in the middle of November. You will remember me talking about that scientific study that was done in the Serengeti on the lions killing giraffes, and because the scientists couldn't observe lions killing giraffes, they referred to the scarring on the rump and on the back legs of giraffes to try and get a good idea as to what was going on for lions getting predated on, or giraffes getting predated on by lions. And the scientists used the scars on the population to determine what lions were targeting. And it was quite interesting that out of the adults, around 20, maybe 20 to 30% of adult female giraffe had scars from attempts from lions on their thighs and at their back, sort of on the rump. I think if I remember the numbers correctly, 13% of the male population, giraffe male population, had scarring, and then no baby giraffes under the age of 1 had scarring. Basically, what that indicated to the researchers was that if you were a baby giraffe and a lion tried to hunt you under the age of 1, more often than not, well, 100% of the time, the lions would be successful because there was no babies with any scars, so they didn't survive the encounter effectively. And then there were more adult females with scars than adult males because lions would often target females with babies to drive and distract the female away, and then the female would often get away from those circumstances because what the lion was after was actually the baby, because it's a lot easier. And baby giraffes are quite big, so when they're born, they're 100 kilos, so it's quite a lot of meat for a lion, or a pride of lions, and a lot less dangerous than an angry female giraffe trying to defend a baby. And then because male giraffe are seen by themselves more often than females, there's probably a higher chance that lions are successful in hunting adult male giraffe, and therefore a lower percentage of the population has scarring because fear of them get away. Fewer eyes, fewer ears to detect lions coming up. So lions can ambush a single male a lot better than a herd of giraffe, which would include females and males. And just the way this giraffe is lying, I can't see its ossicones to be able to tell you if this is a male or a female. It doesn't look like a big animal, so it might be a female. But because they've opened up that soft belly part of this animal, I can't tell you what it is right now, and I can't see its ossicones, which would be probably the best way to identify the sex of this animal. And then from the research that I did for that pack chat, around 40% of the biomass that lions consume in the central parts of Kruger National Park are from giraffe, which is an extremely high number, and that has a lot to do with the size of the giraffe. So because giraffe are a large-bodied animal, a lot of the lion's diet, the meat that the biomass that they consume is made up of giraffe. When you compare it to the size of other preferred prey species like zebra, wildebeest, and buffalo, it's a lot harder to bring down a giraffe than it is, say, a zebra and wildebeest, because a kick of a giraffe can easily kill a lion. But the risk is worth the reward because it's a carcass that will last, especially a pride like this, 4 adult females, sort of 3 or 4 days. If the boys don't come and join them, then it won't last that long. Whereas an adult zebra would probably last these 4 females not that much longer than a day. But you can see those scars there, how these lions are trying to target this giraffe. Also, you can see how they go all the way down the length of that thigh, kind of trying to come around the bones, trying to pull them down. It's a lot safer to be behind the giraffe. When giraffe do defend themselves with their front feet, they can stomp on you, which is quite an effective way of trying to defend themselves. But if you're on its back, there's less chance of being kicked if you get your timing of your jump correct. But still, it's a tough animal to bring down just because of its size and the power of its kick. And there are a lot of documented cases of lions getting killed by giraffe in an attempt to hunt them. I've seen a photograph in one of the coffee table books of a lioness that got crushed by a lion hunt of a giraffe, where she got trapped under the giraffe when it fell over, and the rest of the pride were feeding on the giraffe, and an adult lioness was pinned. So it's risky business, but if you get it right, it's worth it.
To the fire station, just looking for an update from the last personnel. Copy that. So, update. At the moment, we have female lions on Rietspruit bed on the giraffe carcass. I believe there's 2 vehicles on.
Those male lions are not too far from here at Lodge Pan. So I wouldn't be surprised with these vultures flying around this area. They're kind of losing hope here. A lot of them are flying away now. It's starting to get late in the afternoon. Also, the clouds are rolling in, so perhaps they're kind of deciding that this is not worth it for them. It's quite thick in this area. The lions are here. There's a storm rolling in. There's not a lot of space for them to come down when the lions maybe move off for a drink to get a chance to feed on this carcass, and then have enough space to take off if the lions do return. It's quite risky for vultures. Lions will kill vultures. I've seen one of the male lions on the Rietspruit Game Reserve kill a vulture on a giraffe kill. But with the storm rolling in, they might want to be trying to get back to their nest sites. So they're all taking to the air, and that might attract the 2 male lions into this area. In which case these females will not enjoy this carcass for the next few days, because the males will dominate and it will last half the time. All right. We've got an hour left of drive.
At large fan with the 2 male lions roaring, and in large fan is rhino cow with a big male and a baby rhino. So a pretty active sighting at large fan.
So I think let's go and see if we can try and connect with the 2 male lions, because I don't think these females are going to do. Let me get away from my aerobatic positions here. I don't think these females are going to do too much else other than we've already seen. And we're going to let some other people come in here. It is quite a tight spot, and I think only 2 vehicles can really see the action. So we're going to leave, see if we can connect with those male lions, and take it from there. Can I try and leave? We're boxed in now. I'll just turn around. I've got James in a really tricky spot. Yeah, please. Okay. I'm going to try keep the camera on the car as well as James as I reverse here. There you go. It's nice and tight in there. Let's see if we get a nice look at this female walking down the road with the mountain behind her. So there's the fifth one. She might be coming back to the carcass from one of the local dams that's not too far from here. Oh, she's going to go into the bush there and cut the corner off and join the rest of the pride. All right. Well, it's nice to know that all 5 of the females are here. There's a few vultures still here. You can see all of those white-backed vultures perched on that dead knobthorn. Just take them in quickly before we go. And you can also see some vultures in the tree behind that are in the one with leaves. Generally, these big birds of prey, they prefer to perch in dead trees. And if they are perched in trees that haven't died, and it's not a nest site, it's generally a good indicator that there is a kill, because they want to be close to the kill, and maybe there aren't enough dead trees to land on. It's easier to land and take off from a dead tree. But sometimes if there's no dead trees around and you want to be close to the action, you've got to land in trees that are still alive, which makes your task of landing and taking off just a little bit harder. So it's often a good indication that there is a kill in the area if you see a lot of vultures, and a lot of them are in trees that haven't died. But obviously when they are nesting, they choose trees that have foliage, because the nest is protected as well as the eggs and chicks. Okay. Let's carry on. Let's see if we can connect with the boys. We don't have a huge amount of time. At this time of the year, these white-backed vultures kind of getting to the end of their chicks being dependent on them. They mostly lay their eggs sort of in May and June. And then there's about just shy of a 2-month incubation period. Generally they stay on the nests for 2 months before the chicks hatch. And then it's about a 4-month period, 4-month period where the chicks are in the nests. So right at the end of their breeding season. White-backed vultures generally don't leave their nests unattended when they have their eggs. It's a couple of minutes and the birds will switch out, while the other, there's a whole lot perched up there, sit on the egg You don't want to be doing that when it's raining. So they are sitting on their eggs during the dry season when there's the least amount of rain. Also, generally during the end of the dry season, there's a lot more carcasses around. As your weaker animals struggle a little bit, there's potentially more foraging opportunities for vultures to provide for themselves and to raise a chick. Stations. I've left the lions on the giraffe carcass to one other station. The 5th lioness has now joined the sighting. So much water around. I hope everybody's excited for our chat later to learn a little bit more about our conversation that we're going to be having on our new non-profit company that we've started. Brent and I will be sitting around a fire, which is quite fitting that it's a nice cool afternoon and into the evening. To chat a bit about it, why we've decided to go that route, what we aim to have, what we aim to accomplish, how we're going to go about it. It's very exciting to start the new year. Supporting all of our previous projects and hoping to expand that sphere of influence. In the conservation space in this area and maybe a little further afield. If you haven't already checked out the Instagram page, there's a couple of our photographs that we're going to be auctioning off a little bit later in that fireside chat. I'll be keen to respond to the male lions around Lodge Pan, about 5 out. Copy, thank you. In this part of the reserve, we've got to keep our eyes open with all the thickness. There's a lot of wildebeest that like this area. And I know this morning the first baby wildebeest on the reserve was seen. So that's timing is pretty perfect. First week of December. And the baby wildebeest are starting to drop. I did see the little herd of wildebeest that hangs around Haste as I came in this afternoon. And they weren't accompanied by a little baby. But the wildebeest that have given birth are up here on Leadwood. So it's a good thing that those lions have found themselves a giraffe for the next couple of days. Allow these little wildebeest to find their feet down here. I don't think these lions are... Oh, there they are. They've moved right up to the pan. Look at how these two boys look like they've just come from the parlor. Sitting in the wind, their manes look like they've been done up by a professional. They're just watching the two rhinos that are walking towards them. There's a female and calf. There's also a big bull at the pan. Let's see what these boys do, if they're going to run out of the way. They're just watching these two rhinos on their way to them. We just parked behind a little bush at the moment, so can't quite see the rhinos yet. There we go. Let's see what happens here. I wonder if she knows that they're here. Oh, there we go. She's going to take them on. The baby's leading the way here. Get out of here, boys. Let's reposition and see. That was great. That's how you build character in a baby rhino. Have a big mom following behind you as you chase the big male lions. Probably the same size as those lions now. And the two males are having none of it. They're just getting out of the way. They know that it's not worth it. And everybody calls the lions the king of the jungle. Look at that little baby, so cute.
Okay, this is still someone unlocked with the rhino at Lockspan. rod lock at large pan with 3 rhinos and 2 male lions.
Okay, we spent some good time with
Already have 5 minutes out.
Ringo earlier, and these 2 rhinos are going straight into an area that we're not going to get into. So let's go catch up with the 2 male lions. They haven't gone too far, they're just sitting here. Oh, and there's the male rhino following the female and calf. But these boys, it looks like Kinky Tail is posing beautifully for us. They're going to give us a roar. Looks like either these 2 boys have been fighting or the girls have got a hold of them. But James, if you zoom into the face of the boy on the red, he's got some puncture wounds there by his ear, with a bit of scarring there. So I wonder if in behind us, James says, and that's what's got the attention behind us, James says, and that's what's got the attention of these 2 male lions. About to get chased for the second time in the afternoon. And I wonder if a big male rhino will give them more of a hard time than a female and calf. Oh, going in a different direction. Come on, run it there. He's not going to give them as hard a time as I would have hoped. He's on a bit of a mission though, because the lions are here. He's not hanging around. Those 2 male lions are very quick to get out of the way of a 2-ton animal. I would be too, if I were them. Let's have one last little look at the 2 boys before we start making our way back south towards Hayes. We don't want to be late for our chat this evening. He's marking his territory. He's really posing. I'm actually going to see if I can get a photograph. If you have had a look at the Instagram and some pictures, here's a photograph that I took of one of the Birmingham males, the Hene, which I'm sure many of you would have followed a few years ago. Oh, he's running down the road now. The rhinos catch up with the female and calf. He's posing so nicely for us here. I'm really hoping that they're going to give us a roar. Just for our last drive of the year. This has turned out to be a pretty productive last drive for 2025. All the lions of the Rietspruit, a few rhinos, some leopard tortoises. Maybe we'll get a leopard on the way home. It's good weather for the spotted cats to be walking around. I know the elephants were around Siakoi Dam last night, So I don't think they are going to pop up for us this evening. I would love to see baby wildebeest, but these overcast conditions, a little bit not raining yet, but a bit windy. Herbivores might just take some shelter in thicker vegetation so that their hearing's better, especially when they've got vulnerable little ones with them. They want to be able to detect any predators. I'm going to sit quietly. Sorry about the car, everybody. Especially considering it came as he was roaring. Just what we wanted. But his brother is not giving us the same. The other brother is not giving us the same show. So one of the lionesses has gone to the dam, as I predicted. This is where they would be going to drink, to puff at a dam.
This is Lodge 10, I'm about 10 minutes out.
Copy, make your way, there's two here. Okay, I think we'll leave them to it. I was hoping that this boy would give us a roar and follow his brother, serenade us, because he's in a little bit of a better position than his brother is. He's lying flat out in the grass. He's just using his energy to try and look good for the camera. Okay. As we leave, he's probably going to roar. Maybe it's a bit far for them to see those vultures because the vultures are flying quite low to the ground. That's a cool shot. There's a lot of taller knob thorns in the drainage line here by Lodge Pan, so I don't think they're going to see those vultures. So they may go hungry tonight unless the wind picks up and comes from the west, and then maybe they'll pick up the scent of that giraffe. But at the moment, the wind's coming more from the south, which it typically does when we experience shifts in the weather like this, when the rain starts to come in. But I wouldn't put it past these two boys to find the females with their kill. Looking at that male lion sitting there now, I'm reminded by that photograph that I took that's up for auction tonight of, we call them Magari males on Mala Mala, but Nehene on the Birmingham boys when he was in his prime. And it was similar conditions to this. It was quite dark, it was quite late in the evening. There may have been a bit of a sort of storm rolling in, And he was sitting in an open clearing, a lot more open than that. He was sitting with his mane getting blow dried by the wind. I can't believe that that was 6 years ago. Stations, I'm leaving the 2 male lions at Lodge Pan to one other, no change. It was a real privilege to watch those boys. Oh. That's nice and close. Got to look at the camera and on the road. It's a real privilege to watch those 2 boys in action. Towards the end of the year, there was only, to the end of their years, there was only 2 of them left out of the initial 5. But they did a really good job in the Northern Sabi Sands and Malamali Game Reserve, where they dominated for about 5 years. Oh, we won't go that way. There's a sundowner going on there. Don't want to disturb them. We'll go back past Seskun Krip on the way home. See if there's some of the wildebeest in that area. Quite often there's a herd around Seskunt, and maybe we get lucky with some babies, or a better look at the baby impalas. James, what can you tell us about your giraffe picture that's up for tonight? Taken on the Rietspruit, so it's a Rietspruit giraffe. Awesome. Born and raised on the Rietspruit, avoiding the Rietspruit pride. I'm not actually too sure which photograph Victoria's handed in to Brent. And I think Brent might. He's thrown out a lot of leopards. A lot of leopard names over the last week. He was talking about Sibuya, female. Maybe one of her cubs, Langa or Shasha. And the plan with those photographs is to auction them tonight and then have it stay open until the end of the week. So the money from that auction of the photographs is what James is asking. What's it going to be used for? It's going to go into conservation efforts and projects that we are a part of. And we'll talk a bit about those projects tonight. Projects that we've followed over the last few years. So good projects that we are getting more and more involved in. So all of the funds from the auction will go towards conservation. Also launching the website. Tell you the name later on. The website details the projects that we have been involved in, and then we'll also chat about some of the projects that we may want to get involved in. But we do want to stay loyal to who we've supported and then grow from there. There's our baby impalas again that we saw earlier. And right on cue, as we stop, they run away again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I counted 5 earlier and I've counted 5 again. So maybe that's all of them for this little herd. It's not a very big herd. It's so funny, as soon as we get up next to them, they run away. The herd around Seskunt's a lot bigger. But it doesn't look like those females have given birth yet. So last year, our first baby impalas were on Leadwood and then slowly sort of moved south through the reserve. But all in a couple of weeks. But it's already been about 2 weeks since I saw my first baby impala. So you kind of expect all of the herds to have babies now. Michael, if you're still with us, I thought those were Wahlberg's eagles flying overhead, but I think they were actually yellow-billed kites. And saying the name yellow-billed kite brings me to one of these name changes that's recently happened. There's been a few changes in the common names, a grouping of birds. I saw two changes. Yellow-billed and black kites have been lumped together and are called black kites now. I don't think I'll ever refer to the yellow-billed kite as a black kite. It's so ingrained in me. It's one of the first migrants that gets back, and it's just something I've known as a child. And then the other one that I think is quite funny because it's gone back and forth are the two Cameroptera species, green-backed and grey-backed Cameroptera, have been lumped together as bleating Cameropteras. To think that they used to be called bleating warblers, and then they split and now they've come back together. It's quite funny. But it's these advances in technology. I spoke a little bit about that, or quite a lot about that. There's a giraffe. What is she looking at? One of the giraffe we saw earlier. So it was two females that were here. Looked like she was staring at something just now.
Standing by.
Can't have been anything too serious. She's gone back to feeding.
Sandy, I don't know how many stations are out on Blauwbank. I'm just at the sighting of the two male lions on Lodgepen Road, moving towards Blauwbank direction, and the females were on the giraffe hill.
Okay, let's carry on. But with the advances in technology, there's a lot of changes that come because there's better understanding of the actual genetics of species. There's a lot of grouping and splitting and based on type specimens, and it's all very confusing. And what's a common name for us in Southern Africa might not be so common elsewhere in the world, where there's type specimens, and we always need to remember that. So I know a lot of people get upset about the birds changing names, but the birds that we see in Southern Africa, especially the migrants, go elsewhere where they're referred to as maybe something else, and that's why there's so many name changes. Trying to conform everything together. But I've never seen a black kite. I was looking at my bird list a couple of months ago thinking I've got to make a mission to go and find one. I don't have to go far now. Two flew over my head. Carol, the website is live, and we'll announce it all in half an hour. Direct you there, and you can have a read on what we've been a part of, what we're aiming to do, but we will chat about it. Judging by the wind, we'll probably chat about it in amongst the smoke of our haste fire in the boma. And just so everybody's aware, and especially our pack, this live drive and the chat after the live drive will be the last live events of the year. I think it's been a pretty good drive so far. There's still 10 or so minutes to see if we can find something else. It's been a nice live drive. Lots of sightings, been action-packed. This is where we had Ringo earlier. Maybe we see if we can reconnect with him. Maybe he's gone down to Lemondoring Krip. We'll pop past there and see if he's gone there for a drink. But I do suspect that he would have been there a little while ago, because it's not too far from where we are currently. But he was enjoying all of these more open areas with grazing lawns with the short grass. Let's see if we bump into Ringo again, or maybe a sneaky leopard having a drink. I've been looking for some leopard tortoises. We've only had the one. There's a flurry of activity just before we went live, and then since we've been live, we've just had one. Maybe they know something that we don't with the rain that might be en route. I don't see any tracks on the road. Generally he comes up onto this road from where he was, walks down the road. He sense marks a little bit on the verge of the road here. He has a midden that he hasn't visited that midden this afternoon. Oh! I'm too busy looking for a rhino and I heard breaking branches, and then the giraffe comes out of the bush. Did you see it a long way away? Okay. I thought everybody's going to have seen it at home and been like, Gareth, look at the road, there's a giraffe. I was looking at the road tracks. There's a big male giraffe. You can see what I was saying earlier, by himself. At Seskant Crip, we had 2 females together, and now we've got a big old boy. Look how dark his coat is. Disappearing. Disappearing behind the sickle bush. Beautiful flowers of the sickle bush. Always adds a interesting dash of color to the bush, the pink and the yellow. Alright, if there was a leopard drinking from the crip, I think it ran away when I got a fright. You don't want to get kicked by a giraffe. We were just talking about lions getting kicked by a giraffe, and that was a bit close. Ooh, here's some rhino tracks. It doesn't look like this. Yeah, maybe a little bit older. He does like to pop up onto the road here and come down to Lemondering Crip. So I think those were older tracks. Maybe not. Maybe not, but it looks like he's gone off that way. And it doesn't look like there's any water in there. But I was talking about a rubbing post earlier when we were with Ringo, and there's a really nice one here of a tree that's sort of fallen over and has been rubbed. You can see how there's no grass growing around it. That's where rhino will rub around it. You can see there's a bit of sand on top of it. These stumps are perfect for them to rub the underside of their belly on. They often get really nicely polished. This one's still a bit new. Needs to get polished some more. So it's a good thing that it's summer and there's water everywhere, because there's no water in that crip. But that won't be a problem. There's seasonal pans everywhere. There's seasonal pans everywhere, and there's the dams are full of water. the animals won't be struggling. Yesterday there was an early bull here drinking out of Lemon Reservoir. So let's pop past here and see if there's anything up here. He's just gone straight to the source of his water. There's no water in the crib, I'll just come to the reservoir. He was drinking out of here. And he may have been drinking today again. There's a lot of water at the base of the crib. Oh, it looks like all the water is running down the road. Might be a little bit of a crack there by the looks of it, so that would explain why there's no water in the crib. But it's a good thing that it's summer. Look at all the string of stars here. How pretty is this? This time of the year, these little white flowers pop up everywhere. It is actually really pretty. Michael, I'm actually embarrassed to say this, but I haven't seen the black rhinos yet. And I think my silence says it all. Mary, there are still more than enough duikers across the reserve. Don't worry. They haven't all been eaten. They are everywhere. I have seen a couple this afternoon, but because they're in the thick bush, I just know that we wouldn't really be able to get them on camera. Look how pretty these stars, or string of stars are. The genus name of these string of stars is Heliotropium. They do follow the sun. So this is a little herbaceous plant that takes over in the summer months. You see a lot of it in disturbed areas. It's kind of one of these perennial herbs that sets the ground. And once it's done its job, often grasslands start taking over. And last year there was a lot more string of stars than there is this year. So sort of a pioneer species that does its job by fixing disturbed areas. We've always got to remember that Blowbank was a cattle farm a little while ago. There are some areas that were a little bit overgrazed. Lots of sickle bush is another good indication of that. So you do get a lot of these more pioneer herbs and grasses in the reserve. But this is a beautiful one. It really does create these almost carpets of white flowers. And you can see there from that sort of top-down shot the amount of bare soil that there is here. Look how beautiful that is. Actually, it reminds me of a drive I did with Andrew end of last year, probably around this time, where we had the lionesses all lying. We had the lionesses all lying in a sort of bed of string of stars. It was really pretty to actually just see them popping their heads up out of all the flowers. Look how pretty that is. But all right, everybody, that's sort of bringing us towards the end of the game drive section of tonight. So we are going to head back to camp from here, and we will see you all in about 15 minutes, where we'll discuss our conservation work. We'll sort of take live, although it is already live, the website. We'll also be auctioning off those photos with all the proceeds from that auction going towards our conservation projects, and we will see you there. So be sure to tune in and catch up with the latest bit of news from the Painted Dog TV pack. See you shortly.